So the RSS feeds that are combined over here into the US government RSS feeds over here in the sidebar are sourced via a plugin called the RSS multi-importer. When you first go into the plugin, looks a little elaborate, especially if you go into the areas such as shortcode settings or global settings. You'll see there are quite a few different options and things to do with the plugin. We've already set all these up, so you don't actually have to worry about these. There's only a few things here underneath the multi-importer that you're probably going to use. One of these is going to, of course, be the feed list, the add a feed, the categories, and, of course, the feed items. Let's go ahead and go through these here real quick. This is a list of your feeds, the feeds themselves, and this is where you edit and add these feeds in. And the feeds have a name, and this is used internally. They have a URL, which is the actual URL of the actual feed. They have a category, a user assigned to them, and then over here we get some quick information: the category's unique ID, the last the feed's unique ID, the last time the database was updated, and how many items that are currently in the database for that feed. So you can edit, you can trash, you can delete the items, you can view the items in that feed. It has a nice simplistic interface that you're going to find very familiar if you have a tendency to use WordPress. And you're going to notice that these are all say sidebar. And that's because they're all combining over here in the sidebar. You see over here we have add feed source, and that is the form that you use to create these feeds. And in it, you just have to give it a title, which is what shows up here. Then the feed URL, which is what we have right here. The feed category, and you'll see we have 5 selections, and that's what shows up here. And then we can choose from any of the blog users that we want. It will default to whoever's logged in. We're logged in under, but you can assign it to another author if you want. And then here we have media image number. The RSS feed isn't set to get images. If you do want images at a later time brought in for different areas of the site or something, let us know, because we can go ahead and set it to do that. And then there are different options here if you don't want the feed's default image and they have some other optional images. You can go ahead and select from which a number of those that you want. So here's some SEO settings, and you can add some SEO stuff for the feed if you want to, but since this site is primarily going to be locked down from the public, search engines aren't going to be able to crawl it anyway. So anything that isn't publicly accessible doing SEO stuff on it is kind of a waste of time. Just to let you know, because they're not going to be able to crawl that portion of your site anyway, and you don't want them to, because if they could crawl that portion, then people might be able to find a backdoor and get into your site and not actually have to pay to look at something. And we don't want that to happen. We've locked down the entire front of the site, and we've got everything completely locked down so that people should not be able to do that. But sometimes they can do that, and so one of the ways that we can doubly prevent that is we can tell search engines, don't search this site. Only search these pages on this site. And we tell them not to search any of the rest of the site. So it doesn't go and it doesn't index and it doesn't crawl your site, and it doesn't find any loopholes in your security anyway. It just finds the pages that we've told them to crawl and then indexes that in their index. So only on those particular pages are SEO settings going to be useful. And you're going to see that's like the About Us page and the Home page. Those we have default title tags being rewritten, open graph tags, meta keywords, and meta description tags. So those are set, but you can, whether it be a feed or a page, you're always going to see this SEO thing there, and you will have the ability to change title tags, a meta description. These are the open graph tags for Facebook, and then over here, keywords, and you can give a no index and a no follow. And you'll see these will show that you'll see this interface in posts, you'll see this interface in pages, you'll see this interview in feed sources. This this particular interface right here is an interface to this SEO Ultimate plugin that will show up on any item that could really be rendered out front in the system as a unique page. And it will give you the option to go ahead and change that individually per page. If you do not add anything in here, these are not getting rendered blank. They're just getting rendered with the defaults that are in here. So don't worry about thinking that, for instance, when the pages are coming up, that they're not getting, there's none of this information getting rendered in there. It is getting rendered in there, but making it unique information for every page would be a little pointless from an SEO perspective. So once you've got all that in there, all you have to do is click Save Feed, and it will go ahead and save the feed. Depending on what category you give it is how it's going to group several feeds together, and you can either take the short code here and plug that into a page, or you can use the widget, which is what we're using over here in the sidebar. We're using the widget for that. To create a category, you just click Add New Category. Just be aware that once you create a category, you may rename it, but you cannot delete it from this system. So we've created 5 categories. If you wanted to, we're only using Category 5 right now. If you wanted to use any of these others, you can just rename them or leave them named what they are. It doesn't really matter. And you would just utilize that or the widget to go ahead and get it to display out front. Here we have, for the multi-importer, we have category default images, post tags, and filter words. If you were importing a tremendous amount of stuff and you wanted to make sure that you had certain words filtered out, or you wanted an image to be associated with that feed, or you wanted category tags for these posts automatically, that's what this does down here. Generally speaking, and it's just for the category, generally speaking, you're probably never going to use this, just to let you know, but it is here. And the last thing I want to go over here is the multi-importer feed items list. This is the actual items that get imported from each separate feed and then combined. So it's not showing you the combined sidebar feed. It's showing you this came from the House Intelligence RSS feed, which is combined into this government RSS feed out front here. Shows the data was published, shows you the permalink, and also gives you the name. I can click on this and it will open it up. And I can edit the post. I can come over here and I can change the name. If I put in a description, in this particular system, it's not going to matter because it's not going to be rendered out front here. This gives the link directly to the article, and so this isn't rendered. So anything you put in here would just be for internal purposes. It wouldn't actually get rendered at all. So RSS feed items, you can add an image if you want to, change the heading color. We have to add a piece of code out here to get that to work properly. And once again, you've got SEO stuff here for each individual feed item. You just click Update once you're done, and it will actually update that particular feed item. And as I said, you can change the title as well. To delete feed items, if you go through and you see things that you don't want, get over here. Where's our feed lists? Down here under multi-importer feed items. There we go. Gets us back to our feed list. If you want to delete stuff from the feed list, you just click trash. It doesn't actually permanently deletes it, just sends it to the trash. And then you have to click on trash and go in and permanently delete it. So just because things are downloaded to this RSS feed doesn't mean that you have to leave them in the feed. You can just come in here into feed items and just look down, and if you see things that you don't want in there, you can just click send them to the trash. You could select several of them and come up here and bulk items, tell it to move it to the trash, click apply, and then it would move them to the trash. So it's pretty flexible on what it does. It automatically goes and it gets this information and it puts it in here, and it puts it in a specific format for us. But more so what it does is it also allows us to go in there and change this once it's been done. We can go ahead and we can change the title, we can change the heading color, we can add an image if we want to, but the image won't be rendered here. The image will only show up if feeds are rendered here. But if you do use RSS feeds in other portions of the site and you do want images rendered, that's already built in there, and we've already got it configured to do so. So anyway, that is how you deal with feed items and feeds in this particular system.